real buttons and turning jogs and a retro mode, VW is going back to the roots. This is here the new Volkswagen ID.2, still in a very early stage. And today, for the first time, we can tell you everything about the interior of the next coming up electric Volkswagen, supposed to start under 25,000 euros or dollars. This is one of the new Volks EVs, whereas the other Vs were way more expensive so far. But what about the battery, possible range, and of course everything about that very interesting interior, going back to the roots with real knobs and so on, large instruments, everything of that here with Thomas Nautogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go. A short, quick overview of the exterior. You can see a more horizontal, bolder look, less roundish than the current ID models. If it will be called ID.2, or in this case here this concept is called ID.2 All, it's not very certain yet. I would probably vote for Polo or Polo EV or something, but that is not that realistic. Maybe it will be called ID something, maybe it will get a naming, but which name would you prefer? Tell me in the comments. The Volkswagen executives also follow our channel, and then maybe they will also pick a name suggestion from you. Who knows? Up to 20-inch wheels we will have here at the side, and the length is 4 meters and 5 or 159 inches. So it is actually a Polo size, once again with a very simple design, but this is also making this vehicle beautiful, and I think it's a big step forward as for the exterior design, and also the interior design will be so crucial in the changes we can now see. Ooh, look at that, this illuminated red logo here, also a new light signature styling, and overall a very sporty look. Yes, it will also be a GTI model. We have already shown that to you at an earlier stage. They will move back to front-wheel drive also for this new vehicle generation. And it will also kick off more EVs. This one here in the Polo size, under 25,000 euros. Then we also expect an even smaller one, starting under 20,000 euros or dollars. And following by this one here, also a similar size, but then in a crossover or SUV styling. And now the real crucial part, the interior revealed for the very first time. These door handles won't be the ones we're seeing, the door handles from the exterior car. Even though this here a show car, it has actually already a nice door closing sound. What do you think about that? Then inside of the doors, so people have complained about the material choices from the ID vehicles, and now they want to change that. Look at that. For example, here the inside of the door is like a microfiber covering, also with a perforation. How is it done? We've recently seen in our Alcantara factory tour, actually, for example. Not saying that this is Alcantara, but it's a microfiber, and the same technique is being used. And here there's a nice ambient lighting integration. First of all on the top part here, then also in the lower part behind this panel here, also with the fabric covering, and there will be again galvanized buttons and also a manual control here for the side mirrors. And this is then here how you unlock the door from the inside. And this is basically one piece. Just the lower part here, this will be then rather simple material, but it is actually quite realistic. I've heard how this interior is also looking like from the material choices. And furthermore, the ID models, they had like this very small instruments, and then you got the head-up display. So now about the head-up display, they say we make the instruments larger again, but then no head-up display, because then the front hood supposed to be even longer, and that's not possible with this vehicle length axis. So it's a kind of design choice as well, and also not to make the car longer. Interesting, very interesting here, the seats. So these are also very new seats. In this case then fabric on the top part, microfiber on the outside parts, and I think that looks also quite cool as for the material choices. So they want to do two things in one. They want to increase the quality of materials again, yet at the same time simplify the interior, but without making it hashtag capacitive BS only, because you can also see that, for example, at the steering wheel, there we have these volume jogs here, for example, once again back. So no hashtag capacitive BS on the steering wheel. However, I heard that there will be also two choices depending on the market, if the market wants that or not. Then getting inside, and you have to think about that this is size-wise a VW Polo, if we have the combustion engine version, if you think about that. Headroom here with 189 or 602, there's still some headroom left, and I heard that there will even be more headroom because the final version will have a slimmer, space here to the roof, and this will also be available with an electrochrome function, so you can actually dim that just with the button. Then you have this electric mechanism that you have like a see-through glass or the tinted glass. Steering wheel also with an all-new design, with this flying design I would call it, and also with the microfiber covering. And I think it's really cool to see these new large instruments once again, and they kind of replace the head-up display again. And if I have these large digital instruments, then I think I can also live without a head-up display. I found it always critical when you have neither head-up display nor digital instruments. I think at least one of them you actually need to make it safer. Yeah, Tesla Model 3 or Model Y owners say, I'm okay with that. Some at least say that. But I always feel the focal point has to be, to the front. Head-up display, of course, also far. But when you have it only here with the speed, then the focal point is to the side and also close. And yeah, that can actually be a problem. Seats are actually quite comfortable. And I definitely have Polo vibes. So although it will probably not be named ID Polo or something, I think it could be a very good electric successor of the Polo from my first seating impression, actually. Also very interesting perspective here when you are joining me from the passenger seat. I really love this fabric dashboard, for example. It has also this blue stitching, and blue is one of my favorite colors. Who would have guessed? Yes, that is also one of the cases where I picked my clothes once again according to the vehicle. That's also one of my hobbies. Everyone needs hobbies, right? Yeah, and then you have this middle console here. Very clean design. Tesla-alike charging pads, dual charging pads, they already work. And then return of the AC knobs, for example, here for the climate unit, vent strength and so on. You will have this metal knurling, for example, because customers said we do not want hashtag capacitive BS only, we want things to touch and turn. What will also come, for example, a manual volume jog here in the middle console. That is not there yet, but we have this turning knob here, and this is the solution here at the moment. You press it, and then you have the volume control. But when you press it again, we've seen that similar like in the VW Tiguan in the new generation, for example, and I turn it here, then I can switch the stylings for the instruments and also for the touchscreen here. This will be super interesting, going to show you that very soon. Let's first of all finish here the middle console. This is like a cup holder area, and then once again the fabric covering here. So I can just applaud them for going back to more high-class materials, and I really hope it will come like it is, because you also have to keep up with the pricing. And at the end of the video we'll also talk more about this really interesting pricing aspect. This is also an interesting idea. Here a rear inductive charging pad for the rear passengers. Yeah, and we're in Copenhagen, by the way. Outside it's not that pleasant. Quite cool here. Once again, we know that detail already from the ID models. Pause and play for the pedal and the brake. Around 11 inches on the left, around 13 inches on the right will always be this size, and I think it's a nice duo, and you don't have to have it integrated in one unit. I think it's fine as it is here. Then straight horizontal lines also on the dashboard, more microfiber covering. And if I then use here this turning knob, you can see how it switches both styles. This is like the normal modern current style, but I can also switch it then here to the classic mode. This is then VW Beetle or the vintage mode from Golf 1. This looks really cool, right? Let's check it out again in detail. So first of all, here the Beetle mode. Then I have this visualization of a manual radio, for example, and on the left side how it was in the very first Beetle. This as it would be like a metal plate here, for example. To me, definitely the favorite thing is the other vintage mode. This is then Golf 1 styling. For example, here in the instruments you have an digital analog speedometer. The seat heating can be controlled in the touchscreen still, so that is already working right here. So this will be like a combination of things, but I think it's very important that I will be able to switch the temperature here with a real knob, and then I can just control it right here. So back to the real control things, how people want to interact with the vehicle, combining digital world with still some manual things which make sense. What do you think about that? Use the seatbelt, I must, said my driving teacher with a green hat. And here you can see these blue accentuations. I think it's a very nice idea. Maybe they will be red then in the GTI version of this one. Yes, there will also be a GTI version of this one. We could already take a look at that. Of course, in a typical red then. Will be slightly longer because of the different spoiler overhangs and so on, will be a little bit quicker. So this one here around 7 seconds in the acceleration figure. The GTI will be around like 6 seconds. Both will be powered by the front wheels. This is also going away from the Sofa ID MEB concepts where they have rear-wheel drive. Here going back to the front-wheel drive, for example, to give you once again more space there in the rear. So just to remember, this indeed will be the front door handle, a classic one. I've found a good decision, and the rear door handle will be looking like this with the integration, so you open it like this then. So don't be confused that the show car here has this door handle. This won't be in the final version. Rear doors, and once again nice material choices here with the microfiber. The top part here is more or less hardback, but it has a structure, and then the nice ambient light integration and a lot of covering right here. So they try to cover as much plain black plastic as possible. And then you can see it is a short vehicle, but it will be very interesting how much legroom I will have then still. And there you can see when I'm driving as a tall passenger in the front, it's not meant to house tall adults in the rear, at least not legroom wise. Headroom wise it would exactly fit actually, so that is okay, but definitely not meant for this purpose. But remember, it's just about 4 meters long. And then there's a very interesting concept to discuss here. Here, this seat bench, you have space underneath, and at this moment you can fold it up like this, and I found this a very cool idea. And then you have more space underneath. For example, you could put a charging cable there, or maybe some things you don't need that often. But then people criticize, wait a minute, what about when there's a child seat installed there and maybe it's raining outside and you want to fold the seats up then with child seats on? It's not possible. So then they thought about, hey, what about we do, something to pull out then to the front or something. So probably it will not come as it is right here. Please leave your comments if you like this concept here, but rather something to be pulled out, maybe also just on the one side, because you can put a subwoofer, for example, on the other side. So there you can see that this interior here is very close to the series production version, but details like these, they can still be discussed, and it also depends on your remarks. With this nice illuminated VW logo there, you can press it actually here in this vehicle, and then the trunk is opening. I like that. Would you see this here in the final version? Leave it in the comments. Then the trunk here, different liter figures will be around something like a little bit less than 500 liters, pretty impressive. And then here, 1 meter or 40 inches in width and about 65 centimeters or 26 inches in length. And my favorite thing about this one here, it's a microfiber covering of the top parcel shelf, and usually this is like really cheap material. Sometimes you even cut your hand here because it's sharp, and here everything is nicely covered. So I really hope this makes it to the final version. Same also for this floor cover here, also with microfiber. And the real surprise here is underneath. Look at that, how much space I have here, for example, for these water boxes. It's like in the Tesla Model Y, only that this one here is the way smaller vehicle. So this is the most space you have then here in this segment at least. This will of course also boost the liter figure. And of course we can also fold the seats, and this will be even more interesting because I heard it's supposed to be 2.20 meters in the total length. But is it true? Let's find out. So here we can first of all fold the seats like this, also flat and also with a nice microfiber. Here you can also fold the passenger seat, and then you have the even loading space here, for example, for extensive shopping trips to IKEA. Yeah, and look at that. This is here 2 meters or around 80 inches, and has even more space to the rear than, so this 220 in meters is true. This is also a fun feature here, as a hidden real power socket. And this moment here is always very especially important for our vertical videos like YouTube Shorts, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Yeah, that's all of them, because people always want to see a reel of the towing hook being folded out like this. This semi-automatic function, 750 kilograms for towing and 75 kilograms to put, for example, a bicycle carrier on there. Have you seen this guy there in the background? He's always watching us and doing the fact checks for us, you know, if I say something wrong. No, I'm just kidding. This is Chris from Car Maniac, German electric YouTuber. So he's waiting while I'm filming, whereas before we were waiting while he was filming. So, hello Chris. End of America, England. Yeah. So what about the battery and range and so on? Not too many facts are revealed for that one yet. The smaller one will start a little bit less than 40 kilowatt hours net. So this is really city only, also an LFP battery. That one's supposed to be a little bit more long lasting actually for the whole battery life, but not so quick charging, which is also not that important when it's not that large. And the larger battery around 56 kilowatt hours net. But even the larger one, this means it is a city EV, so the range figures in the realistic way more, you know, even with the bigger one, more like 300 kilometers or 200 miles. So you cannot expect long range for that. Then again, also when you have smaller batteries, there's also less raw material use and so on. So this has always pro and con. And of course, they try to keep the price lower. This 25,000 euros is of course then the end, or under 25,000 euros, of course just the entry price for the smaller battery version. Charging information will be released later. There is something like 20 minutes, 10 to 80% state of charge out there. But then again, if the battery is also not that large, it's also not that impressive as for the charging technology. We'll see more about that later. So the important messages to take away from this one here: exterior design, more bold, more German design once again, going away from this really round and fluent ID design language so far. Interior with real buttons, switchgear and so on, things you can really touch and turn and so on. And also going in some retro fun elements. I think that's also a cool decision, and try to be more upmarket, although lowering the price. That one, however, will only be possible if they go for rather small batteries. And then you will have a city use only. That could be something where people think, hey, I just want one vehicle for all purposes and not one for long distance and one for short distance. But that's the thing with small EVs. If you want to keep the price low, then you also have to keep the battery kind of small. What do you think about this concept, about the exterior design, and especially now for this first interior look? And how should they call this vehicle? Tell me in the comments what do you think. Schedule, by the way, world premiere end of 2025, and we'll keep you updated with that. Yes, they are late to the game, definitely. That's the catch.